Imagine a book forgotten by time, hidden among the shadows of ancient libraries, sealed not by locks, but by the very veil of mystery itself. A book that dares to answer the deepest and most universal question of all: what really happens when we die? Since the dawn of time, humanity has contemplated the great silence of death with eyes full of fear and hope. Religions, philosophies, and ancient traditions have sought to decipher the fate of the soul beyond the boundary of life. Yet the answers seem fragmented, incomplete, like distorted reflections of a truth that eludes us. But there exists a text, wrapped in legend and carefully guarded within the most secret circles of occult knowledge, that promises something different. A detailed map of the soul's journey after death. Not a theory, not a metaphor, but a vivid, precise account traced through symbols, archetypes, and universal languages. A book that speaks not to the rational mind, but to the deep consciousness of those who are ready to listen. In this video, I will guide you through an exploration of this enigmatic manuscript. We will discover which ancient civilizations passed down this knowledge, what truths lie hidden behind the veils of official religions, and how these teachings can radically transform your understanding of life and of death. Because knowing what happens beyond the veil means living with a new intensity, with a new wisdom. If you are ready to cross the threshold of mystery, if you are ready to see death not as an end, but as a sacred metamorphosis, follow me. It is time to open the Forbidden Book, and to read what very few have ever dared to unveil. The desire to understand what happens after death is as ancient as humanity itself. Every culture, every era, has woven its myths and teachings around this great mystery. Yet, in certain fragments of esoteric history, we find surprising points of convergence, like echoes of a forgotten primordial knowledge. In the heart of ancient Egypt, the priests of Ar and Osiris guarded the Book of the Dead, a compendium of formulas, astral maps, and rituals intended to guide the soul on its journey beyond physical life. This was not superstition, but sacred science. Death was seen as a conscious transition, a passage through the fields of Amenti toward the eternal light. Likewise in ancient India, the Vedic texts and the Tibetan bardo fiddle, known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead, describe in detail the journey of the soul through intermediate states. The bardos filled with visions, challenges, and revelations. Not an oblivion, but a conscious continuation. A voyage through the mental and spiritual worlds shaped by consciousness itself. In the Greek world, the Eleusinian mysteries promised their initiates a special knowledge of death, a revelation that, once experienced, would forever dispel the terror of the end. And even in the Gnostic texts, such as the Pistis Sophia, the soul is depicted as engaged in a great ascent through the celestial realms, facing trials and receiving teachings until it is reunited with the source. But there is more. Some Hermetic fragments speak of an even more ancient manuscript, a book that would synthesize this knowledge, a cosmic guide for the traveler of the soul, a book that explains, with clarity and depth, the precise stages the soul passes through after leaving the physical body, a text hidden from the eyes of the profane, reserved for those who are ready to face the truth without fear. In the next segment, we will explore the very heart of these teachings, what really happens to the soul in the first moments after death, and how this knowledge can radically change the way we live. According to the ancient teachings preserved in esoteric texts, the moment of death is not a random or chaotic event. It is, rather, a passage orchestrated with mystical precision, a true cosmic ritual. When the physical body ceases to function, consciousness, the immortal essence that animates you, does not dissolve. On the contrary, it is liberated from the prison of flesh and begins its journey through a series of subtle states, like a traveler crossing invisible bridges between worlds. The first stage is called, in many texts, the moment of great confusion. Here the soul, still strongly attached to material senses, may not immediately realize that it has died. Just like in a deep dream, the environment appears familiar, yet strange. Everything vibrates with a more intense light, and thoughts manifest instantly as images and sensations. In the Egyptian Book of the Dead, it is described how the soul must recognize its own state, recite sacred formulas, and maintain its spiritual identity so as not to get lost in a labyrinth of illusions. If the soul manages to maintain awareness, then the second stage opens, the weighing of the heart. Here, according to the Egyptians, the heart of the soul is weighed on the scales of Ma'at, the goddess of truth. The heart, symbol of actions, thoughts, and lived intentions, is compared to the feather of truth. In more esoteric terms, this weighing is not a judgment imposed from outside, but an inner self-revelation. The soul undergoes a complete review of its life, reliving every act, every word, every thought, but from the perspective of those who experienced its consequences. There are no lies. There are no masks. Only the naked truth vibrates in that subtle field. Those who carry weights of guilt, hatred, or regret feel the burden crushing their vibration. Those who have cultivated love, wisdom, and truth ascend lightly toward the higher spheres. The mysterious book whispers to us that, at this moment, the quality of our consciousness determines our next destiny. In the next segment, we will explore what happens beyond this weighing and how the soul navigates the invisible realms that await every traveler beyond the threshold of death. After the weighing of the heart, the soul's journey continues through increasingly subtle layers of reality. It is here that the mysterious manuscript reveals another crucial passage, the passage through the subtle worlds. In this stage, the soul traverses what the ancients called the intermediate planes, regions of vibration, not of matter. Each plane is shaped not by physical laws, but by the emotional, mental, and spiritual frequencies the soul cultivated in life. If a soul carries with it fears, unfulfilled desires, attachments to matter, it will initially find itself in confused and misty worlds, distorted mirrors of its own illusions. These are not places of punishment. They are inner landscapes manifested outwardly, where the soul can finally recognize and purify what holds it back. Conversely, more evolved souls, who have cultivated wisdom, compassion, and truth, ascend rapidly toward realms of light, filled with harmonious sounds, living geometries, and benevolent presences. In the language of the Tibetan texts, these realms are described as beatific or terrifying visions, but both are temporary illusions, doors that open or close depending on the traveler's awareness. The mysterious book emphasizes an essential principle. During this journey, thought is power. Every thought, every emotion, every act of will immediately shapes the surrounding environment. There is no longer physical time separating intention from manifestation. The soul experiences the naked truth of its inner vibration. And further, if the soul can recognize the dream in which it is immersed, if it maintains lucidity, it can transcend these intermediate planes and proceed toward the primordial light, the origin and the destiny of all existence. But most souls, due to a lack of preparation or awareness, allow themselves to be enveloped by their unresolved desires, cyclically returning to matter, a new birth, a new incarnation. Thus the cycle continues, until the soul conquers the great remembrance. I am light, I am origin, I am creator. In the next segment, we will explore how this knowledge can be applied today, in everyday life, to transform not only our relationship with death, but also the quality of our existence. Knowing the journey of the soul after death is not merely a philosophical exercise. It is a powerful key that can transform the way we live every single day. The ancient sages taught us that preparing for death did not mean fearing it, but living fully, with a consciousness that transcends the ephemeral and touches the eternal. Here is how you can apply this knowledge in your daily life. Practice daily mindfulness. Remember, every thought, every emotion, every act creates vibrations that are imprinted upon your soul. Cultivate mental presence. Ask yourself several times a day, does this thought elevate me or imprison me? Purify your heart. The moment of the weighing of the heart, according to the ancients, does not occur only after death. It happens at every instant, invisibly. Practice forgiveness towards yourself and towards others. Let go of the weight of resentment, envy, and fear. Every negative emotion you dissolve now is a burden you will not have to carry beyond the veil. Create your inner landscape. Since the subtle worlds are shaped by the mind, begin today to build an inner world of beauty, harmony, and light. Meditate on sacred images, mantras of peace, visions of universal love. Like a cosmic gardener, plant flowers where once there were deserts. Cultivate the remembrance of who you are. Every night, before sleeping, repeat to yourself, I am light. I am infinite. I am eternal consciousness. This simple act prepares your soul to recognize itself, even in the worlds beyond matter. Live with a greater purpose. When you know that life is not a biological accident, but a journey of the soul, every daily action takes on a deeper meaning. Dedicate each day not only to survival, but to the evolution of your consciousness. Death, then, will no longer be a shadow to fear, but a sacred threshold to cross with courage, clarity, and love. In the next segment, we will weave all these threads into a conclusion that will illuminate the true meaning of our journey on this earth. Life and death are not opposites. They are the two halves of one great cosmic dance. When we learn to look beyond the veil, we discover that dying does not mean ending. It means transforming. It means continuing the journey along paths of light, awareness, and evolution. The mysterious book we have explored today is not merely an ancient treatise. It is a mirror, an invitation to recognize that death no longer needs to be a frightening abyss, but a bridge to a vaster dimension of being. Knowing what awaits us beyond the threshold gives us an immense power to live with an open heart without fear, to consciously choose every thought, every emotion, every action, because every breath, every glance, every choice you make today creates the echo that will resonate in the soul's journey tomorrow. Remember, you are not a body that occasionally has spiritual experiences. You are an eternal spirit, now having a brief adventure in matter, and when the time comes to cross the threshold, you will do so not as a frightened stranger, but as a conscious traveler returning home. Death is not the end, it is the awakening, and the true journey has only just begun.